A very lovely day again to all of us here in the studios of the Nigerian Television Authority. And of course, it is the weekend deal. And of course, we're also taking it back to you. A very lovely day for you as well as we begin this day this week. It will be well with us. Let me start by asking, did you sleep well? Was it a drug-free night? Yes, I know what I'm talking about because a lot of us will not sleep until we've had one pill or the other, either painkillers or sleeping pills. Well, we are talking about drug and drug abuse, especially the illicit ones. We started a conversation yesterday which we intend to put an end to today, and we intend as well to ensure that the ripple effects also gets to affect us so much so that we put to an end the wrong use of the substance we're talking about, illicit drugs. It is a burden, not just on a personal basis or family basis, but the entire nation. Let's look at this background now with Francis, and when we come back, we will be diving into it big time.
The burden of drug abuse is becoming a public health concern in Nigeria. Statistic reveals that with a 14.4% in Nigeria, the drug use prevalence is significantly higher than the global average.
Drugs, as we do know, is what we take to either treat certain ailment or address certain health challenges that we may face. But it becomes an abuse when we take any substance with the purpose to intoxicate us or to put us in a state that we are no longer controlling our situation or what is happening around us. And sadly today, our young people do not just end with drugs, they even inhale toilets and certain other things just for the purpose of making them act abnormally, and they think it's all right, and it ends up causing them havoc.
Drug use affects people from all walks of life. Whatever the reason a person starts taking drugs, whether recreational or as prescribed, addiction may develop sometimes before the user even realizes it.
The basic problem is that drug abuse is an international problem, so national and local. Now, when you talk about the prevalence of drug abuse, it goes to a kind of be hinged on quite a number of factors. If you look at it, we cannot take same away from peer pressure. We cannot take same away from parental neglect. We cannot take same away from the economy of the country.
There is so much broken homes around us. Sadly, when children grow up and do not have good home training, the chances is that they go or they are lured by their colleagues or peer group to go into taking certain things, thinking it's going to help them. Another problem we do face is the manipulation of youth by political class or some group of people to use them for violence purpose, to use them to rig election, to use them to cause havoc, to use them to settle scores with political enemies.
Nigeria, which is the most populous country in Africa, has developed a reputation as a center for drug trafficking and usage, especially among the youth population.
Schools can create clubs to help young children become model, become good example of living, and it helps to use those clubs to teach children the danger of drug abuse and all this. They can run periodic or timely or semester seminar on just issue of drug abuse, the danger, the havoc it is causing in the society. In the past, if you get admission into a school, the first week is mostly a week of orientation about dress code, about behavior, about the danger of drug abuse and so on. But now, all people are anxious is Have you paid registration?
Whenever a full-blown substance use disorder develops, it can be extremely difficult to stop using drugs without professional treatment.
As a parent, if you are one who know your children, there are certain things you need to look out for. If a child becomes rather withdrawn, you have cause to question why that attitude. If a child all of a sudden gets rather very excited, you should also be able to ask what's going on. If your child is beginning to place demands on money, you should be able to ask what is going on. If your child is hanging around kids that you quite don't understand where they are coming from, and you're beginning to see certain behavioral changes, he can walk up to you, talk to you with the level of confidence that hitherto did not exist, you should be able to ask questions. If a child begins to start getting very secretive, maybe he's locking his door when he never used to do same, he's hiding to make phone calls, to take phone calls. These are things that should be indicative of the fact that something might just be up.
The rate at which women, young girls, married women have gone into drug abuse today is terrible across religion, across tribes. So government needs to do more than what she is doing at the moment and must not wait for a BBC documentary or a television conversation to bring up that wake-up call.
Drug abuse has been a cause of many criminal offenses. Therefore, the need for all and sundry to join hands together and fight this monster cannot be overstated.
Government as an institution needs to look deeply into this matter and look at it from the angle of education, from the angle of family, and then use institutions like religious institutions and any kind of institution, even if she wants to use entertainment, but as a way of sensitizing and educating young men about the danger of drug abuse is going to work. Because I've tried this in the past and it works for me.
As a parent, if your child is hooked on drugs, there's nothing to be ashamed of. As a guardian, if your ward is hooked on drugs, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Come on, come out and seek help. If you are hooked on drugs as a person and you can see that this thing is beginning to overwhelm you, come out and look for help. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Our focus, therefore, on Weekend Deal today will be on curbing the spread of drug abuse in Nigeria. Weekend Deal.
It's terrible when we hear women go into this. It's not that men are okay doing that. But I mean, I actually can't think about it when I hear that a woman, a married woman, a mother who should be the caregiver, the trainer, the teacher, is actually getting into this place. All right, our job today is to ensure that we so much expose it that all of us begin to think on the right parts and move out of it. But then in doing that, it is always good to find out where did we err? How did it all start? ETV will help us look at that from the angle of trafficking here in Nigeria.
The increasing rate of illicit drug trafficking is no doubt a serious issue in Nigeria. In 1989, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency was established. It works hand in hand with the Nigeria Customs Service as well as civil society organizations to curb this menace. So far, how well has the fight been? What are the statistics we need to know? Also, what are these illicit drugs?
The top on the list is actually cannabis sativa, which we know popularly as Indian hemp. We also call weed. That is the number one, which is actually abused by 10.6 million Nigerians. And like I said, this figure could be more than that.
In the southwest, another critical illicit drug that we keep arresting is tramadol. There was one that was arrested with a suspect, which we handed over to NDLA, both the suspect and the substance.
If you go to the airport now, it is not just the sole responsibility of NDLA. The entire nation are now seeing it that, look, if we don't attack this, if we don't collaborate to fight this, there is every tendency that Nigeria may become Colombia.
In June 2021, the NDLEA, in a joint effort with the Nigeria Customs Service, arrested about 11,341 illicit drug traffickers, including 6 barons, through its War Against Drug Abuse program known as WADA. What are the factors that encourage this crime?
I believe that some of them, now because of the bad economy, they believe that if they succeed, they will be able to survive to do what they want to do. So
that is why people, they cannot fear government, they cannot listen to what the government to tell them about the drug trafficking, so just because of money.
Quite a number of them want to live large, they want to live big, so and that ambition, that quest drives them to get involved in drug trafficking.
A situation whereby young people will graduate from the school, there is no job. They have responsibilities. They need to get accommodation. They need to get wives. They need to marry, have children, and also give back to family based on how we run our society here. So when those things are not in place, you see the influence, you see the pressure mounts.
With all the measures and initiatives implemented by the relevant bodies, it would appear that illicit drug traffickers are steps ahead. Are there other ways the battle can be fought and won?
I think the government needs to add more efforts and to recruit more security agents that that will go for their arrests, so that the rate of the drug trafficking will reduce.
Young Nigerians, they don't need much. The only thing they need is creating enabling environments for their businesses, their skills to strive.
It is important to have the information passed across to all schools, right from primary to secondary school up to university level.
Indeed, illicit drug trafficking is a great threat to life, national development, and security. Therefore, it is important for every unit of the society, beginning from the home, to be part of the fight.
We definitely are all part of the fight, and NTA, we are doing our bit to ensure that this fight, we win. We fight to win, never to lose. Drug abuse must come to the barest minimum. ETV, from there we're moving on to Lagos Network Center, where I have a guest seated to answer a bit of my question, of course, a bit of the nation's questions via the iPad here. He is the president of the Nigerian Society of Substance Use Prevention and Treatment Professionals, ISOP Nigeria. He's also founder, executive director, Global Initiative on Substance Abuse, GISA, Dr. Martin Agwoje. Thank you for joining us, Doctor. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me, and good morning, viewers.
You know, when I told some people today that I was coming to have a discussion around drug abuse, somebody asked me pointedly, why are you the one presenting drug abuse? Are you into drugs? And I was like, wow, I don't even know what they look like. But I'm going to pass the question to you as well. You're president and founder of several things around drug abuse. Have you had any issue around your life that led to that?
Yes. For more than 23 years, I worked with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and that took me through different parts of Nigeria, and also observed certain things about drug use. And I knew that we actually have a crisis on our hands to address as a nation. And I felt that I should, contribute to addressing the issue of substance abuse in Nigeria, because if not addressed, it's like Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder.
You're really right, and it's worse when we have women, getting involved. And every day, the number of women seem to be on the increase. Without being gender insensitive, but I want to dwell a little bit on the women, because they are actually the first teachers of children, and of course usually they are the first to talk and keep talking with the children up until old age. Now, why do you, in your thoughts and experiences, why are more women getting involved in this?
Thank you very much for asking specifically about women, because it should be of concern to everyone that 1 out of 4 persons who use drugs in Nigeria is a woman. And what are the risk factors? So many risk factors have been identified, but we also try not to be too speculative. Presently, we are carrying out a study in one of the states in Nigeria to identify these risk factors, especially that women play a significant role in the upbringing of the young ones, even from the womb, because when women use psychoactive substances, especially when they are pregnant, they are not only the ones that have used the substance, the unborn child has already used the substance in that case indirectly, and that also poses a whole lot of risk to the unborn child. Well, one would say there is high level of frustration that have been identified before now, and we also want to know whether the men are actually being responsive to their duties at home, among other factors. Are women neglected? Are women having sense of fulfillment? Are women suffering from some kind of disorders, anxiety disorders, depression, for which there are no immediate source of help, for which they now resorting to substance use, among others. So we also need not to be too speculative until when we carry out comprehensive studies, especially on women. Why are they indulging in the use of psychoactive substances to this large extent?
It's amazing that creativity can also be negative. Women are beginning to get creative, not just women really, in substance use, embedding them in cookies that we give to our children. Now, let me move from the women and children to the youth. You've had, ample experience working with the NDLA for a while now, and in your thoughts, what can we do to redirect the minds of the youth, towards substance use?
Thank you for asking that question. In most cases, we actually focus on the youth, forgetting the fact that it is the environment that the adult provides for the youth that they are living in. So the young ones, for example, the adolescents of age 12, 13, 14, they are not the ones making these substances available. In communities, the adults are even the ones selling these substances. The adults are the ones mostly trafficking in these substances. From the home front, it is the environment that the child sees while he or she is growing up that he or she will eventually emulate. If the parents are using substances, or the parents are in the first place neglecting their parental role, of course, the child will react, and how the child will react could just be in different ways, and one of which is to resorting to the use of substances. So the thing is that we must address it from holistic point of view, and even from the adult point of view, so as to create a more enabling environment for the young ones to strive. Because if the environment that the young ones are seeing is an environment that substance use is like a norm, the 3 A's are there: availability, easily accessible, and affordable. Then it becomes easier for them to feel as if that is part of growing up. So while we want to address the youth, I will also say that focus should be even more from the adults to more or less turn or change the environment, make the environment more conducive for the younger ones to live in. But that is where I also say that one cannot give what one does not have. How do I mean by that? The adults also need to know their respective roles as far as prevention is concerned, so as to be able to change this environment, so that the younger ones can see something more positive in the environment. And this cuts across different settings. Of course, the family as a setting must take ownership of substance use prevention. The school system, the school setting must take ownership of substance use prevention. The community must take ownership of substance use prevention. The faith-based or religious setting must take ownership of substance use prevention. And of course, the workplace must take ownership of substance use prevention.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you mentioned environment. Let me blow your mind a little bit, Dr. Martins, and take you right up to Cross River State to show you the illicit synthetic markets drug for the illicit drugs there in Cross River. This is courtesy of NTA Calabar. When we come back, I'll ask you more questions.
Trafficking, abuse and addiction of illicit substances is generally attributed to false socialization, frustration, depression, family influence, and association. Some get involved with a view to enhancing their sporting capacity and ability to withstand frightening situations.
Of recent, the young boys that we find, particularly of a certain age, feel that is to belong, to be a part of the growing gang, of the growing guys in town. They need also to play along with them.
This ugly trend is viewed to be on the increase, citing about 25 users at each dealer spot in recent times. Compared to the past years, a total seizure of about 154.75 kilograms of illicit drugs has been recorded, showing a significant growth in trafficking and usage.
What we face every day in the state in the course of our duty, the increase in the recoveries, the increase in arrest of users, the increase in arrests of dealers.
The intake of these substances has a multiplying effect from the individual user to the society at large, ranging from mood swing, communication difficulty, relationship breakdown, aggression, withdrawal tendency, poor academic performance, insanity, and criminal tendencies such as stealing, cultism, rape, suicide bombing, insurgents, banditry, among others.
At the end, what affects you as a person moves around to the circle of people that relates with you. So you have the child or the individual becoming withdrawn. It doesn't circulate as it used to circulate. It becomes aggressive. It becomes aggressive and it becomes prone to violence.
Some substances could make people behave like they are not in charge of themselves, lose control of themselves, talk irrationally, begin to have some what we call psychotic symptoms.
To tame the tide of the negative effect caused by the usage of illicit substances like cocaine, marijuana, heroin, and other psychotropic substances, the society has been charged to change its ideals, resuscitate core values. Families should return to its role of informal training. Faith-based organizations should not relent in preaching against it. Political institutions should desist from encouraging thuggery, and addicts should be encouraged to visit health facilities. As users are to be discouraged from substance intake, the need for job creation should be looked into and health facilities should be properly funded to acquire adequate equipment and accommodate training and retraining of personnel.
But the family is made to go back to its role as a family, what the family should play. Then the child will be disciplined. The child will be well behaved. And as the child learns the rules in the family, he takes it to the school enforces it, the school enforces those rules, and the school exposes the child to more universal values.
It's important we understand that drug-related mental illnesses should be looked at not just as a result of a moral failure of the individual involved, but as a disease.
In a bid to bring the menace under control, the enforcement agency is not relenting in its primary duties, in which 148 arrests has been made, 23 peddlers convicted, and 101 dependents successfully counseled within the last 1 year. To further sustain and improve on the development, recruitment has been done as and when due. Effort has been increased to step up border patrols in the state, and the Marine unit has been resuscitated.
We need to help our youth. We are not going to abandon them because they are taking drugs and it's affecting them. We need to bring them out of it. If we don't, then what we are going to see later, we are going to blame ourselves.
However, reformed addict traffickers and dependents need to be fully rehabilitated with the provision of rehabilitation centers at each command of the Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
All right, that's from NTA Calabar, the illicit drug market. There is sad because it's something that is engulfing. The whole country is involved. Every part of a nation has 10,000 cases, I'll tell you. And we still have Dr. Martins Ogogie in Lagos Network Center, and he will be taking on more questions, but from me and from the audience, because I have ample of them. But let me start by asking you, a lot of people think we do not have enough rehabilitation centers, and even when we have, the ones we have, parents seem to, be reticent taking their ward or children to the place. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. I agree with you. One, we don't have enough rehabilitation centers. And two, there is a high level of stigma associated with drug or substance use. So that makes it difficult for parents, to associate with anything that has to do with treatment of persons with substance use disorders. Most of the treatment or high-level treatment facilities are the psychiatric hospitals, and stigma also will not allow parents to take their ward to psychiatric hospitals, and that is also based on limited information or lack of understanding. It is not only when one is a psychotic patient that one needs to visit a psychiatrist. So there are different conditions for which one can go to psychiatric hospitals. So that is also the need. That is also why we advocate for standalone treatment and rehabilitation centers, and this will also be very helpful. Just like one of the commentators said during the interview, if we neglect those who are already using substances or those who have substance use disorders, they become a bigger burden to the society. So there should be rehabilitation centers with equipped treatment, with of course fully better equipped, and with personnel who have the capacity to address substance use disorders. Because I tell you, from a professional point of view, not everyone has the capacity to address the issue of or treat substance use disorders. It requires collaboration, and there is need for capacity building in that area, in addition to having rehabilitation centers and also some kind of reorientation of family members to know that addiction, of course, requires attention as against abandonment. And attention is usually not paid to it until it degenerates. I think that is one of the complex issues we experience in this field.
And thank you, Doctor. Somebody here asked, good morning, Ma. I thank you very much for this program. Please, I just noticed my younger brother is into drugs. Please, can you connect me with any rehabilitation home? Thank you, and God bless you as you help us. And another person says, it's interesting that Nigeria has these agencies, yet drugs are on the increase. Almost every community has a black spot for drug taking, yet personnel of these agencies don't really spot them. Dr. Ogogie, we pretty well know some of these very open places where people take these things. You worked with the NDLA for a while. What are the takes on, stamping it out completely, knowing those dark areas, knowing the spot areas where these things are taken? They are not hidden, really.
Thank you very much. You see, the truth about it, that was why I said it earlier on. Of course, the government agencies will always do so much, but at the same time, they cannot be everywhere at the same time. So that is why collaboration is required. Because where these illicit substances are, they are in communities. And we have community leaders, we have religious leaders, we have different leaders in that community. What are they doing about it? So there must be that synergy between the community and the law enforcement agencies to be able to carry out their activities. In some places, the community more or less like provides some kind of protection, for people to carry out their drug trade. So there is need for that collaboration and support for the government agencies. And that was why I said it earlier on. The 3 A's: availability, affordability, and accessibility. And I also want to commend the present leadership of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, because before now, it looks like substance use has become a norm. But recently, we're beginning to see activities demonstrating that, look, this should not be tolerated. That is on the side of enforcement. But at the same time, we need to focus on prevention. This should also happen within the family setting. Training parents on substance use prevention. Training community leaders on substance use prevention. Training employers and employees in the work setting on substance use prevention. Even within the faith-based setting, providing the capacity for them to be able to deliver substance use prevention.
I know that with all you're doing in collaboration with United Nations Office for Drug and Crime, a whole lot will still come off. I'm glad you said you'll be replicating it in states. We look forward to that. It's been wonderful speaking with you, Doctor, the President of the Nigerian Society of Substance Use Prevention and Treatment Professionals. And you're also the founder, Executive Director, Global Initiative on Substance Abuse, Dr. Martins Aguiye. Thank you for coming. And with that, I know you're still in Lagos. We'll move down to Maiduguri, get to find out the nexus between crime and drug use.
Illicit drug trafficking, abuse and insecurity remain a critical problem in Nigeria. It is associated with several social and economic implications.
The effect of drug abuse are multifaceted. It could affect either the person's physical health, it could affect the psychological well-being of the person, and it could affect the social interrelatedness of that person. So looking at it from the physical health of the person, it could affect any organ in the body depending on the drug that the person is using. For instance, everybody knows the relationship between the use of alcohol and, of course, the development of liver disease. And also, people are aware of the effect of people who smoke or use cannabis and the development of respiratory tract diseases or chronic respiratory syndrome. And, of course, it could affect the mental health of the person, in that there is the predisposition that the person may develop psychosis, for instance, in the use of cannabis, or that person may develop intoxication or even outright frank psychotic illness.
Drug abuse is of very serious effect in the state. It is of common knowledge that there is the challenge of insurgency and violent crime. These are the kinds of criminal activities that those who perpetrate such acts mostly go on drugs, so that their conscience and their common sense goes away, so that they can commit these heinous crimes. So the effect is massive. It is destroying the society.
We have a rehabilitation center. It's a center whereby patients who are being treated here are being taken to the rehabilitation center, so that from there they will be rehabilitated. There will be thoughts, some like carpentry, tailoring, a lot of these handwork things.
The impact of drug abuse is of great increase. It has eaten up the heart of a lot of Nigerian youths and has become a top priority.
The issue of drug use is not just an institutional issue. It should be an issue that all hands must be on deck to address it. An important aspect is that we tend to neglect the role of community leaders. We tend to neglect the role of religious leaders, and we also tend to neglect the roles of civil society organizations. These are very critical agencies that could play a role in all aspects of control of drugs, both in terms of drug demand reduction and in terms of supply reduction. Interfacing between the government and the community, they could serve as advocates and could enlighten the community, and of course, not for neglecting the role of civil society organizations. Where the government could not reach or where the government could not effectively perform, civil society organizations or non-governmental organizations can also play roles in the control of drug abuse.
Public to be very up and doing, where they notice people that are involved in drug trafficking, drug sales, they should report to our office and they will take the necessary action. And if they have wards or children who are engaged in drug abuse, they should bring them to us. We will counsel and rehabilitate them.
I'm calling on the youth to stop taking drugs because it's no good.
More need to be done in order to win this war for a country whose future depends on a younger generation.
All right, I have a guest with me in the studio, but I'll just keep you wondering who my guest is and what we'll be discussing after now. But let's take some break, pay some bills, and be right back. All right, Weekend Deal is still on, and I have with me in the studio a guest I already told you, and there's a whole lot he has to offer to Nigerians. He is someone who has been at the apex of it all, and with experience he has a lot to give, and of course he'll be answering your question. So I will quickly introduce my guest. He is the former Director General NDLA, and he is known as Otumba Lanre Epimisho. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You know, I was going to comment on the Adire, but let's leave it. When I come back, and I'll link up my Adire talk with our topic for today. But for now, let's take a break and bring you Thelma's package on drugs.
According to a 2021 World Drug Report released by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, about 275 million people used drugs worldwide in 2021. And over 36 million people suffered from drug abuse disorders. And in Nigeria, a 2018 National Drug Use Survey revealed that there are about 14.3 million drug users. Out of this number, 3 million people suffer from drug use disorders.
When I was in the school administration, we had to sack one of our staff because of hard drug, that could stand in the presence of authority and point hands to the head. And what was coming out of him it was obvious that the man was into hard drugs.
The World Drug Report noted that in the last 24 years, cannabis potency had increased by as much as 4 times in many parts of the world, including Nigeria. And this obviously has impacted society negatively, with increased violence, crime, and criminality.
The Quran speaks. That is again in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 91. Shaitan only intends to cause between you animosity and hate through intoxicants and gambling to hinder you from the remembrance of the Almighty. He says, will you not desist?
It's leading to crime. And because some also feel there's nothing to do, when they do it, they can use that to humiliate others. People don't see anything wrong in it. They see it as lifestyle.
Drug abuse has attendant consequences on the user and society, and many urge the clergy and all religious to step up and be unrelenting in activating and increasing the support of the fight against drug abuse.
The Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah again, verse 92. Obey Allah and obey the messenger. And if you turn away, know that upon our messenger is only the responsibility for clear notification.
The church is a tool for training people to live godly life. And that's where the clergy come in. We do our work well and we sound the alarm. Parents must not be too busy to observe what their children are doing. We need to look at our personnel. If I'm the type that have been assigned to monitor border or to monitor any drug-related matter, how am I handling it? All of us should also work on ourselves as individuals in the society. And by the time I am conscious, all of us are conscious. I think we will record more progress.
Every Nigerian has a responsibility in the fight against drug abuse because it is only through this synergy that results can be positive and permanent.
All right, thank you, Thelma. And we will now have our conversations with Dr. Ekpimisho. And a whole lot has been, buttressed by him behind the camera. And I would want to go straight on and ask my questions as we have been having our conversation. I already let the audience know about the Adire I talked about, and I know that's some of the program you are rolling out to ensure that the child's mind, the women's mind are occupied instead of going to drugs. You want to share that with us?
Thank you very much, Nigerians, for your support. NTA has been wonderful partnering with you. What you do for Nigerians without their knowing, you are doing nothing. We thank you very much. All the appreciations we get at the airports everywhere is because of what you are showing Nigerians. Now on the Adire, the lovely Adire. This one is actually from my village by Auntie Neke Okundaye. The legendary Neke Okundaye Art Gallery. You go to the village, everybody comes around, handouts here and there. Then suddenly some certain women don't come around anymore. You just wave at you from a distance. Say, what is happening? They say, Nike parked about 30 people. She's educating them on how to make this Adire. They are very busy. They are selling, and, lovely Adires. People want it all over the world. So I said, instead of asking people, stay off drugs, to do what? No jobs. And why don't you invite this lady who, of course, had done it for the entire Italian government, with these ladies, being thrown out of Italy, then they will find their way back. He said, with all you go through, why is it that you keep coming back to us? He said, we have to survive. He said, okay, is there anything we can do to make it easy for you? He said, okay, we'll train you in a way that you have your own small little shops all over Italy, so that you can do legitimate business. So Nike was invited there. He said, why can't we replicate this with our youths? There are some of them that are in this business just because of the way it feels. It's horrible from 10 o'clock in the morning till about 2 when students are returning home. What will you be doing?
The women whose children are grown, there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. Nothing else to do. So the whole place is quiet and very frustrating. What will you be doing? Something has to engage the mind within this period. So the government is saying that, okay, if you are willing to stay off the drugs, we can get your mind engaged and you see your product. The lady that made this now, obviously she'll be very happy to see me on TV with this.
Yes.
And that gives her additional happiness apart from the money she's making. She feels good producing something that somebody is using. Yeah. So these are all the ways, in addition to other recreational activities that have worked in other places.
An idle mind is a devil's workshop, and if somebody says, occupy yourself with this, by 1 gram you're moving to 2, and all of that is increasing every day. I'm glad that is being done. And I know that you have this campaign you call National Drug Control Master Plan. You want to share what it is like for all of us?
The essence of National Drug Control Master Plan is to fight the battle with evidence, by who, how, and accountability. Drug is so distracting that if you are not very careful, you think you are focused. Just picking boys from Ademola, Adetokunbo, Usetu and all that, you think you are working. So, National Drug Control Master Plan will indicate who is to do what, when and how. There must be a standard that is known. There's no juju about, no magic about it, that allows for transparency in your investigation, in your intelligence gathering, and how you also execute. That's why you limited cases of human rights abuse in NDLEA, because there is a world standard that is known. Number one, that boy smoking on the streets is not considered a criminal by NDLEA, unless if he does some other things that brings him within the area of crime investigation. We see him as having a health issue, a health challenge, and he needs help.
Okay, so
that is the way we see the boy that you see smoking. Our enemy is the guy that is supplying.
Oh, okay. What if it's a full-fledged adult who is smoking? Is he also a criminal?
No, he's not.
Okay, so the smoker is a health challenge.
Is a drug challenge. His health challenge.
Okay.
And we want to see him as that. We want to see him as somebody. Most of them you interview, more than 95% says, I've woken up several times and I will cry all night and say never again.
Oh.
But I find myself back. So if we view him for this your angle, rather than don't mind the idiot, he's a spoiled brat. No, it will not help. This your insult, this your harassment will not help. In fact, that is what he wants from you as a mother at a point, to disengage from you. Because the only connection is this your love. And the moment you yank it off, he's willing. His friends are waiting for him. So rather than that, you just draw him there. What did I do wrong that will take you to this? Because I see myself as the person who is being challenged, not you. What did I do wrong? You don't have access to me? Am I not discussing issues with you? Please, my son, you don't need to go into this. And you see that this boy will warm up to you. But the moment you turn it and make him look like he's irresponsible, his friends are waiting for him to say that it is you will need to be happy here.
And the case will double up.
It will.
Okay, we talk about men, we talk about women. I know that I was around Kano some time ago, and someone mentioned something around people sniffing glue. Without meaning to take a pause on you, let's quickly go to Kano, digitally speaking, get to find out the conditions there, then I let you react. Kano's report.
So I found myself into drug abuse by following bad friends.
1 out of every 6 people in Kano has experimented or taken drugs before. It doesn't mean that the person is still on drugs, but that is the prevalence. Because when the questions were asked, the question stated that if you have ever tried drugs or experimented drugs, so that's what gave the prevalence of 16% in Kano.
These official statistics are quite alarming. They do not only portray the physical dangers faced by the victims, but also contain in them an implicit threat to socio-economic and psychological future of the country.
If you look at it from psychological perspective, it is believed that drug abuse leads to psychological or psychiatric problem of dementia, schizophrenia, and finally psychiatric problem. That's one end of it. At the end, the victim becomes useless to himself and burden to the society, to the family.
As the fight against illicit drug abuse intensifies here in Kano, the trend now takes a different and strange dimension. Drugs finding their way down to women in their matrimonial homes. while young girls find pleasure accessing them at different entertainment junctions.
Sometimes there are women who peddle these drugs. They're moving from house to house, and they try as much as possible to see that they inculcate women into this habit, and try as much as possible to procure customers. So they move from house to house, and the guys that maybe they are selling household items, but underneath what they sell is drugs.
In 2020, we do a survey in this local government. We have a 30 joint of shisha joint, wherever you can come and smoke shisha. Shisha normally is a tobacco. So this shisha joint, we pick 10 out of this 30 as samples. We find out how many women are involved. So most of the joints, if you see men, you must see a woman. Most of the girls that are coming, their parents, they are not aware of they are coming there. Which from shisha, drug abuse is like a step.
You know the funniest thing? Married women are the ones going to homes. You understand, selling these drugs to married women. You think that they carry something responsible inside their bags. You understand? You think that they are friends indeed. You, even as a husband, you excuse them. You will leave them inside palo. Some they will even leave the house for them. My wife's friend has come not knowing that that woman is carrying drugs inside bag. And at the end, you will not understand your wife again.
In spite of the effort to fight the menace from all quarters, the general perception is that the prevalence of illicit drug abuse is in the increase. However, experts in the field believe it is decreasing, for example.
Well, the last statistics that was carried out, Kano State, in terms of drug abuse, fell from number 1 in 2017. Just before the onset of Corona, Kano State came back to number 6. Now, but activities as regards enforcement of drug laws have been quite tremendous in Kano State. And the Kano State government has been doing everything it can to assist the new leadership of the NDLEA in seeing that Kano State is salvaged from the scourge of drugs. Now, I can tell you confidently that it is on the decrease.
For the society to overcome the problem of illicit drug abuse among the youth, all hands must be on deck. Different strategies and techniques must be adopted to match the new ways the perpetrators use to carry out the crime.
All right, the discussion is still on, and I still have Dr. Ipinosho with me in the studio. Otumba, really, I would like to know, there was something you started doing, NDLA and all of that, the arrest and seizure. I don't know how it works, but how effective is that?
Thank you. You see the upsurge in reports for the past 1 year since General Marwa got there. Every day we turn out tons of drugs, and you now wonder, where is it from? Is this sustainable? Is this something that we'll just see for now, and it will disappear again, and the drug will flow? And try to explain to you that as an institution, the general started building as an administrator from the scratch. You won't believe it. An agency of 32 years old. Things have been done like a task force in NDLA before. Say no. So he studied and came to the conclusion that he doesn't have the technology required to fight this battle. He doesn't have the science, but he has the men on ground. So how do I put the men to optimal use? And when I say men, I mean with the women too. There was nothing like a barrack before for NDLA. You see police barrack, you see civil defense, you see. Now the federal government says that, this institution has woken up to its responsibilities and they need our support. Now, so we're getting barracks all over the country. Governors are donating land to NDLA now. 25 hectares, come and put your barracks in. With all this, you are enhancing the personal dignity of each officer, which encourages him to be firm on the ground. When we started the EFCC, don't forget that it's the same police that we said were not functional in the police that we took to EFCC. And things changed, isn't it? So these same Nigerians can transform this country if the right leadership is put in place. So what you are seeing now has a foundation in science, in technology, in administration, in wonderful administration, consistent and concerted. So you will discover that this is something that is here to stay. So if you are looking at this business, okay, let me stay off 3 months, I'll come back when the environment is there. You are never going to have the kind of environment where we carry drug so easily around. Because, Elizabeth, what do you need to fuel crisis in a country? Drug, arms, money in wrong hands, and it's all complete. So are we going to watch this country go down with all the sweat of the hard work, working people of this country, and the criminals less than 15%? No. It's unless we take individual, corporate, societal, communal ownership of the country, which is where we are going. We have war against drug abuse now. Going down to each community. At least there's no community where people don't know who are the sellers, the suppliers of these drugs.
Definitely.
And we're going to smoke them out.
We definitely will do
With the community, with the society, with the people they live with, we'll smoke them out. So we must take care of the sick, regardless of the abuse.
Okay.
So we must protect them. Then, that is why we have the NDCMP, the National Drug Control Master Plan, Ministry of Health, NAFDAC, will do a survey and tell us that NDLA, we know you are anxious about this tramadol, but this is what we need for our patients legitimately. And this is how we intend to protect this legitimate quantity from getting into wrong hands.
Okay, they must state what they need and, of course, make proclamations as to the wrong uses or right uses of it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Otumbalare Epimisho, and he's the former director of the agency we've been talking about, that's the NDLA. Thank you so much. We intend to keep working with you to ensure that this is completely stamped out, if not, to a barest minimum. And some people are also asking, I may not be able to read all the questions here, that when you make your arrest, you should try to make your arrest and leave those who are innocent. All right, it's a suggestion, so, and I hope you will carry it home. I believe that we've been able to drive home the issue of drug and the use. It is negative. However we look at it, if a doctor does not prescribe any drug for you, please don't go near it. And even when it is prescribed, make sure you follow the prescriptions strictly, because it is for your own good. Let's carry on the message. Let's educate our children, let's educate our friends, and ensure that the larger society is removed. Instead of drugs, you can actually do fruits. Like, I have fruits here. And I'll be doing this till I join you again next week. Bon appetit to Elizabeth.